Good morning, good morning. It is Tuesday, the 6th of September 2022, and it's quite autumnal. School went back yesterday, and I was tempted to walk across the grass in my bare feet. Actually, the grass is very wet. I think it's probably rained overnight or it's the dew, but I have high hopes that it's going to turn into a beautifully sunny day. So on that subject, if you are watching live or on the replay, do let me know whereabouts in the world you are and what the weather forecast is. So as our thoughts are turning towards the autumn time, I thought today I would pick flowers that were mainly oranges and yellows to sort of get that autumn vibe. But having done that, I've just picked some bits and pieces already, the hard to get bits and pieces already waiting in my jug. So I've got half an idea that I was going to go traditional autumn colours, and then half an idea that I would actually just sort of pick one of everything. So I think this is penstemon, and then there's some Sweet William and I can never remember the name of the purple, Verbena bonaris, I don't know what that is. If you've got access to Google, look it up and let me know what it is. Now, this weekend, I went across to the National Trust property at Burwash, Bateman's, which is Rudyard Kipling's home. And I noticed that each of the rooms there, they had brought in flowers from the garden, and they weren't big arrangements like perhaps you might have expected to find in historic homes, you know, the properties that were open to the public of yesteryear, when they were all, you know, really massive arrangements. These are very simple arrangements, as if somebody had just literally gone into the garden, picked a few stems and put them in a vase, and they just looked so beautiful. So if you haven't already watched that video, which went live yesterday afternoon, I will make sure that once this video is published, I will leave a link to it in the show notes, and then you can follow along. So I'm going to turn the camera around a little bit, and if you're not too fed up with zinnias and dahlias, I thought I would pick a few of the zinnias and dahlias from the patch. Rather bizarrely, we seem to have a divide here when it's mainly pinks on that side and oranges on this side. So I'm going to just pick a few stems because I'm going to arrange my flowers in not so much a jam jar, one of my kilner jars. I found a green one, and I'm going to use a little grid there, and the grid's probably got 20 holes in it, so but I won't need 20 flowers because the time I've got the flowers in and the bits of greenery, they will stand out a bit. But it's just a really great way of arranging flowers instead of having them, even though a jam jar is small, all slopping to one side, that with the grid they do stand up where you want them to go. So it'll be quite a small arrangement with little spaces all around it. So let's go. So picking the dahlias, I'm not going to go tall because it's a jam jar, and also I am being guided by the natural habit of the flower. So I've picked the dahlia that's that long, it's not much bigger than my hand, but down here there were two little leaves and two new buds developing. So I've purposely cut it in order that the two lots of buds will mature, and I'm putting that in my milk jug so they can stay in water while I think about what I'm going to do. So I've got a zinnia in there as well. That was quite a small zinnia, small-headed zinnia, whereas down here I have got a larger headed zinnia. Now, I'm going through a phase at the moment of drying my own flowers as a way of collecting my flowers in times of abundance in order that I can use them in other times of the year. And I've just bought a book about dried flowers. And I am going to do a book review on it, but it said that you can dry dahlias, they're zinnias, and I've never tried that or heard anybody doing that. I have tried drying my dahlias from the dahlia arrangement I made from 2 weeks ago, and I'm at that quandary stage there where I don't actually know whether I'm actually drying them or they're just actually dying. It's a fine line between dried and dyed. So I may well, as we do have, you know, a reasonable patch of dahlias, think about, and zinnias, I keep getting the names muddled up, I might actually have a go at, instead of putting them in the vase, pick them from the garden and go straight to the drying process instead of interrupting the drying process by having them in a vase for a few days. So if you've got any experience of drying dahlias or zinnias, do let me know in the comments, and then I can test them out. So I'm looking at my collection so far. My two, the large zinnia and the smaller zinnia, are actually the same colour. So I'm going to add a little bit of contrast in by getting a more brightly coloured zinnia to go in the mix, and then perhaps another dahlia, perhaps a dahlia in bud, although that did get me in trouble with the gardener when I picked it. I know there's actually a red one here, a reddish toned one. I'm going to go for a reddish toned zinnia and one more dahlia. Oh, I might have cut a bud off there, but never mind. I won't tell if you don't tell. So this is what I'm working with today, and in fact, probably once they've been properly arranged in my vase, that is pretty much what they're going to end up like. So let's turn the camera around, bring you down a little bit so you can see what I am doing. So actually, I quite like having this moment out in the garden with you, and I don't know whether you feel the same. It's just an opportunity to be a little bit quiet. So we've had quite a lot of disruption at home recently. It's back to school, so there's all sorts of stress and anxieties about that. Plus the fact that we're having some building work done. We're having our bathroom refitted. And on top of that, our dishwasher stopped working and it's flooded the kitchen floor. So it just means there's lots and lots going on. And this is where, as we all know, that, you know, perhaps if you're a gardener, you know the value of gardening for your mental health. But also, I'm not a gardener, but I do really appreciate the value of being outdoors in nature, being a little bit quiet, and having a sort of contemplative, meditative moment with my flowers. So let me know your thoughts on that and we can have a chat. So I have got, actually, as I hold it up like that, this does look a little bit like a beer glass. And here in Faversham, we've had our first hop festival after the break for coronavirus and lockdown. So it does look a little bit like a beer glass. So Faversham is the home of the oldest brewery in the UK, I understand, Shepherd Neame, and the home of the International Hop Festival. So the town was bursting at the seams at the weekend with loads of live music, lots of pubs open, well, they're always open, Morris dancers, people walking around with hop crowns on that were being made, the sun hats with a trim of hops in there. So it really is a lovely sort of fiesta moment here in the southeast of Kent. So I shall say cheers and a happy hop festival, and I'm looking forward to 2023 already. So if you are interested in checking out the hop festival, it always takes place the weekend after the August bank holiday, so that's the first weekend in September. I think I'm right in saying with that. So I'm making something quite small today to put indoors. The reason for that is that I've been asked to do an exhibit for a local church flower festival, which I don't normally do, but somebody's had to drop out at the last moment and she's asked whether I will take her place. So with the hop festival in mind, the title of the flower festival is Memories. So I'm going to do a hop festival themed arrangement. So that is why I'm not overly cutting my yellows and oranges of my zinnias and my dahlias, because I'm thinking that I may well cut some of those in much longer lengths in order that I can use them for the church flower festival, added in with some dahlias, which I understand are being gifted to me or to the original flower arranger from Country Lane Flowers. So you'll know Country Lane Flowers if you follow me regularly, because that's where I've been getting my bucket of flowers on my subscription. The dog is saying hello to the birds at the end of the garden, so hopefully she will settle down soon. So I thought with the yellows and oranges of my own zinnias and dahlias and some sunflowers, which I'll probably get from the local supermarket, I've got a sort of commemorative hop ceramic jug, which I'm going to use with the sort of old-fashioned picture on the front, of historic scenes of Faversham and hop picking, and I've also got a big earthenware pot as well. So I've got this idea in my mind. I'm going to have one vase here with tall stuff, another vase on the other end with tall stuff, and in between a trail of hops, some beer glasses, hats, that kind of thing. Now the only problem is I've been shown a picture of where the exhibit has to go, and it's in the church window. It's this beautiful, it's quite a modern church window and quite blue, tree in it, I think. But the problem with being allocated the window is I don't really know the church very well, so I don't really know the dimensions. But also, there's no flat surface, so I'm going to have to explore whether because this church does an annual flower festival, whether somebody has previously made up a wedge to make the windowsill flat, or whether there's a plank that I can put across the pews underneath the window in order that I've got a flat surface. Because I don't think the jugs that I've got, the base of the jugs, I think they're going to be too wide for the flat piece of the windowsill. So having gone through the anxiety of going back to school, having the workmen in, dishwasher giving up, I've now given myself an extra headache to think about, which should be something pleasurable. But I'm going to put that aside for another day. So let's talk about our flowers. So you'll notice as well that I never have many flowers in my garden. Should I go tall today? I could always go tall, then cut it down later. And it's just the nature. I'm not a gardener, and my husband is the gardener. He gardens for wildlife, and suppressing the weeds. Every bit of soil is covered, so he's not really into growing flowers for cutting. So you can see there, because I've got that grid at the top, the flowers will stand up exactly on where I want. And these are absolutely beautiful. Not only are they beautiful because they're so pristine, but I don't know whether the camera will pick it up, but there's tiny little dewdrops in the middle of that dahlia there, which is quite pretty. So I'm going to just go with a flow, a cut and a plonk, and just put my flowers together as and where they fall. Now I'm not quite sure that the tall zinnia will make it to the final cut, because of course I've got to then move it into my kitchen windowsill or wherever it's going to go, and it may well just rattle around a little bit, and if it does look a bit vulnerable to just flopping around too much, I'll just take it out the vase and trim off a little bit more. But I thought, well, why not just have the flowers the length that they naturally occur, and so it doesn't look as if I've over arranged it, it just looks like it's naturally fallen. Now with this very heavily petalled zinnia, it's not quite as pristine as the other ones. And what I'm going to do, because it's bigger and chunkier and fatter, I'm going to have that sitting down a little bit lower. So although I'm just doing a cut and plonk arrangement, I am thinking about my principles and elements of floristry and the rules. So I would say, really, if you're flower arranging, try not to be too hide-bound by the rules, because I think it's going to stifle your creativity. The only thing I would say, if you want a rule, is that your arrangement will look more pleasing to the eye when it's got the heavy, large, visually heavy stuff at the bottom, and then the finer, floaty stuff at the top. So, number one is put down low, and then you've got something middle-sized, and then you've got something finer and floatier at the top. And if you are interested in having your own classes about flower arranging, do check out Flower Start, which is my 4-week online flower arranging class. It's an email course, a self-guided email course with videos, and I send out emails 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Mondays and Wednesdays are things to think about, just to notice when you're doing, going about your day-to-day business. And on the Friday, it's the homework projects. So we talk about, the practical projects are arranging flowers in a modern straight-sided vase, flowers in a teacup and saucer, flowers in a jug, which I always say is the arrangement you really need to get to grips with, because it's so practical. And then a hand-tied posy, which is really great if you ever decide to gift flowers from a friend, whether they're from your garden or something you've spruced up from the supermarket or something you've spent a bit more money at the florist. It really is a great skill to have. So here I am cutting down my zinnia, the big zinnia, really tall. Now I've kept the leaves on, and actually I can't get the stem down through the grid. So I'm going to cut one leaf off and see whether that helps a little bit. I think I'm going to have to pinch both leaves off. So never totally denude your flowers of greenery, the foliage, because you never quite know when you might need it. I thought I might need a bit of the greenery to bulk out the space in the grid. So I've got the little grids there. And I thought if a single stem is in there, sometimes it can rock around, but if you've got something with it where the leaves are, it can sort of hold more firmly. So you can see there that sits low and the smaller flowers sit a little bit higher. And then if you look, you can see, well, there's a sort of a great big gap here, this exposed stem. So the next time I put a flower in, I will be thinking about putting it a little bit lower than the top one, but just to sort of hide that expanse of stem. You want to be thinking, well, actually, you want to take in the beauty of the flowers and not be attracted by the things that don't look right. So at the moment, this tall great line is just a bit jarring to the eye. You're thinking, what on earth is going on there? So this pretty little, it's like an orangey red, but slightly washed out. I am going to put that, I'm going to lift the leaf of the tall zinnia so that I can slide that in there, and then it just sort of disguises a little bit that big straight up and down stem. And then the next thing you need to think about, actually the first thing perhaps you need to think about, is where you're going to put your flowers. So if you're going to put this on your breakfast table, you might actually want to put some flowers on this side too, so it looked good all the way around. I will say for the most part, I make my flower arrangements so they are front facing, because I know they're going to either go on my mantelpiece, on a bookshelf, on my kitchen windowsill, and there's no point in sort of wasting flowers around the back. You want to give that sense, the arrangement, although it's front facing, it's actually sort of got a 3/4 face. There's no point in me putting something here because I'm not going to see it, and because I'm only using a few flowers, I want them all to show off. So here, this little bud here, so as I take the leaves off, I'm sort of pinching them off with using my fingernails. The risk is if you pull them off that you get a heel and it damages the stem, and as soon as you start damaging the stem, you're attracting bacteria and decay, and your flowers aren't going to have such a long life. So find another hole. I'm just going to lift the leaf up there a little bit. What's that look like? And really it's not to fuss over it really. I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stems. So it's never going to look like an absolutely massive arrangement. It's just going to look as if I've done exactly what I've done. I've had a cup of tea, I've had my breakfast, I've put my shoes on, and I've just had a little bit of a wander around the garden to see what's in season at the moment. So there we go. Oh, that last piece just won't stand still. What I might have to do is get it to share one of the grid holes. So I'm going to put it in that grid hole, which I can see now as I look over the top. There's actually 3 stems going through that grid, but they will hold up a little bit better. And this is what I mean about the grid. And you can see that each of the flowers is sort of being held in place. So there's lots of space around them. And if I'd put them into a jam jar, they would naturally have either all flopped to the outer edge of the jam jar or slopped to one side. So the one way you can get around that if you haven't got the grids, which are easily available online, and I'll try and remember to put a link to those in the notes underneath the video, is you could always make a little pose in your hand and then get an elastic band and tie them, but just don't tie it too tight, because otherwise your flowers will go all together. You want to tie them so they hold, but not so they are so rigid. You want this sort of sense of a bit of a relaxed flow, really. So that is my finished arrangement. And before I go, I will just say that Zoom Flower class starts again on Tuesday the 28th of September. If I was clever, I could work out how many Tuesdays ahead of time that was. Is that 2 weeks away or 3 weeks away, I think it is. I'm running an early bird discount at the moment, so if you are interested in joining Zoom Flower class, which lasts for 8 weeks, if you drop me a comment or just put Zoom Flower class, I will get in touch with you and tell you a little bit more about class. So whatever you're doing today, I do hope you have a good day. I hope you're able to find some time in your day just to sit and be quiet. And it may be that peace comes from having a cup of tea. And instead of having a cup of tea and making a shopping list and checking your phone, just take a moment to do nothing but have that cup of tea. So, listen to the water as it flows into the kettle. Listen to the water boiling, and just make it more, perhaps a mindful, a slower, more engaged experience. And that is the reason why I've started having my cup of tea in the morning in a proper teacup and saucer, because it makes an event out of it, something a little bit special. And then I sit down, preferably in my garden or at the kitchen table, where I've got a view of the outdoors, just so I can start to notice. I don't want to find that autumn or the change in seasons has just disappeared and I've forgotten about it. So it's a really great way of clawing back time. And it needn't take all day. It could just be a 10-minute ritual that you've got, and you think how many 10 minutes you waste by scrolling through your phone. So that's all from me for now. I will post a picture of my flowers in my free Facebook group, Flower Start World. So if you want to have a little bit more flowery chat and you want to show off what you've been doing with flowers from your garden, or perhaps you've been gifted flowers this weekend, or you've added some flowers to your shopping list from the supermarket, I'd love to see what flowers you're arranging and what vases you're thinking of using and what the finished arrangement looks like. That's all from me for now, and I'll catch up with you next week. So those of you who do follow me on Facebook, I can't do a Facebook Live on Friday today. I've got a prior appointment, so I will see you live here Tuesday morning, 8:15, YouTube next week. That's all from me for now, and I'll see you again next time. Better let the dog in.